1-2. Welcome, my friends. Welcome. Armor of Truth Live number 132. We'll be with you in just a moment. Stay tuned. poll question for you today. If you'd like to vote in the poll question, you can see the link in the live chat. It's pinned to the top of the live chat. Or just navigate to the community tab section on this YouTube channel. Is climate change a global emergency? Tell us what you think. So far, not many people think it is. Interesting, right? Because I'm going to share with you some United Nations surveys that say give a completely different story. Coming right up on Armor of Truth Live, number 132.
We are bored. We're all bored now. But has it ever occurred to you, Wally, that the process that creates this boredom that we see in the world now may very well be a self-perpetuating, unconscious form of brainwashing created by a world totalitarian government based on money, and that all of this is much more dangerous than one thinks, and it's not just a question of individual survival, Wally, but that somebody who's bored is asleep, and somebody who's asleep will not say no? See, I keep meeting these people. I mean, just a few days ago, I met this man whom I greatly admire, and he told me that he no longer watches television, he doesn't read newspapers, and he doesn't read magazines. He's completely cut them out of his life because he really does feel that we're living in some kind of Orwellian nightmare now, and that everything that you hear now contributes to turning you into a robot. He said to me, "Where are you from?" And I said, "New York." He said, "New York, yes, that's a very interesting place. Do you know a lot of New Yorkers who keep talking about the fact that they want to leave but never do?" And I said, "Oh, yes." And he said, "Why do you think they don't leave?" He said, "I think that New York is the new model where the camp has been built by the inmates themselves, and the inmates are the guards, and they have this pride in this thing they built. They've built their own prison, and so they exist in a state of schizophrenia where they are both guards and prisoners, and as a result, they no longer have the capacity to leave the prison they've made or to even see it as a prison." And then he said, "Escape before it's too late." See, actually, for 2 or 3 years now, I've had this very unpleasant feeling that we really should get out. Of course, the problem is where to go, because it seems quite obvious that the whole world is going in the same direction. From now on, there'll simply be all these robots walking around, feeling nothing, thinking nothing. And there'll be nobody left almost to remind them that there once was a species called a human being, with feelings and thoughts, and that history and memory are right now being erased, and soon nobody will really remember that life existed on the planet.
Armor of Truth.
In the age of technocracy, scientism, and pop atheism,
Faith is resistance.
Nietzsche, of course, announced the death of God and called for the birth of the Übermensch, the Superman, who would take humanity to new heights and to create a new world order.
Find us at the Brad from Carolina YouTube channel and log on armoroftruth.net.
Greetings, everyone. Wow, do you want to hear some more music? Let's stop it right there. Welcome, my friends. Welcome to Armor of Truth Live number 132 or something like that. Who knows anymore? YouTube has removed so many of them. I've had to remove some of them. Anyway, greetings. How's it going, everybody? It's good to see you all back here over on YouTube. If you hear some rumbling and stumbling going on, there's a nice summer storm going on outside here today. So, pardon the weather warfare, if you would, please. Thank you, my friends, for joining us today back over here on the YouTube platform. For those of you who may not know, we also do a live stream over at armoroftruth.net. So far, right now, once a week. Last week we did 2 live shows over there. We're getting used to having our own platform, which we have now. We have our own platform, and I want to thank all of you who support us. A special shout out and thanks to the SEH Tabitha Foundation for helping us get started with a lot of this. And if you'd like to support us, you can do that. There are links in the description to help you with that. Go to armoroftruth.net and click on the donate tab as well. You'll find some information there to help you figure out how you might like to help support this mission. I have a poll question for you today. Before we get to that, let me just remind everyone about part of the outreach that we do here. If you would like a Bible, you want one for yourself, you want to give one to someone, email us at hello@armoroftruth.net. Now, if you'll notice, this email address has changed. We've now, we have our own domain now, so we have our own email. So email us at hello@armoroftruth.net, and in the subject line, just type, "I want a Bible," or "free Bible," or something about a free Bible up there. And then in the body of the message, give us your physical mailing address, and we will send you one out. If it's not possible for us to send one to you where you may be, some countries are not allowing religious materials to be mailed in anymore. Now, that has been that way in some Middle Eastern nations and African nations for a while. But someone at the post office recently told me that Germany is not allowing religious materials to be mailed in. I've sent them there. One of our listeners has received a Bible and tracts from us there in Germany. So I don't know. I heard it at the post office, but I did anyway. If you would like one, just let us know. Email us at hello@armoroftruth.net. Say, "I want a Bible." Give us your mailing address. I'll let you know if we're able to reach you. Okay? Likewise, if you want to send us a letter, you want to tell us that you appreciate what we're doing, or you want to tell us how wrong we are, it's all good. Either way. You can send us a letter. You can also send support in this way. You can send in if you feel comfortable. You can send in a cash donation if you'd like, or you can make a check out to Armor of Truth. That'll be fine. We'll be able to deposit it in the ministry's account that way, if you'll do it that way. Armor of Truth, P.O. Box 729, Hudson, NC 28638. Send us a letter. Send us books. Send us your research if you have it. Got something you want us to check out? Something that's going on in your area, your part of the world, your city, your town. You're seeing Agenda 21 going on right in your backyard. Let us know about it. Send us some snail mail. We love to get those. And for those of you who have sent us messages in the mail, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Back here behind me, got several of those posted up behind me. Those are really nice reminders that there are people out there watching and that people care about what we're up to here. Once again, folks, the poll question for you today is this. Is climate change a global emergency? Just very simply, is climate change a global emergency? Now, in a few minutes, we're going to look at a United Nations survey that asks exactly the same question. United Nations Global Climate Poll. And according to the United Nations Global Climate Poll, the people's voice is clear and they want action. Interesting, though, that this poll says something completely different. If you'd like to vote in this poll, there is a link in the live chat right now. And it's pinned to the top of the live chat. So if you're on your phone or your device or your laptop, you'll be able to find that easily. Or you can just navigate to the community tab on this YouTube channel. It'll be right at the top. So far, out of 67 votes that are in right now, 96% say no. Climate change is not an emergency. 3 possible responses. 2 of them are yes, giving everyone a chance to say yes if you think there's some way that this is an emergency. The first answer, yes, we must follow the United Nations plan, Agenda 21/2030. Nobody is on board with that in this poll. Or, yes, climate change is a global emergency, but we need a different solution other than Agenda 21 or 2030. So 4% of you have said that. Okay, that's interesting. People are saying, yes, we need some solutions, but not Agenda 21 or 2030. They're the same thing, by the way. And, of course, 96% of you say, no, climate change is not an emergency. So let's refresh that again. All right, 68 votes. Get over there and vote in that poll if you would, folks. Let's get that up to 100 before we get out of here today. So we'll have a nice round number. All right, let's look at the comments here. Emilios Man says, this realm is so large, we couldn't hurt it if we tried. Now, I'm not saying to pollute needlessly, just saying they are making this stuff up for further profit and control. And this is what we're going to talk about today, right? Monetizing the earth. Joseph Powell is in the house. Good to see you, brother. Joseph Powell says, as far as changing the climate, I saw a headline where they had drones make it rain in the desert in Qatar, or Qatar if you prefer, or in the UAE. Interesting. Dento Bean says it's a sinful world and people, an emergency that could well be leading to this extreme weather. It's a sinful world and sinful people. Yeah, there could be. That could be. You know, it could be. Is it God's wrath? Maybe that's a good poll question. Is climate change, if you think it's real, is it God's wrath? I was about to say something that I can't say here on YouTube. Anyway, Kelly Henson, thank you for that. Dento Bean, Joseph Powell, Emilios Man, and Kelly Henson chimes in with it, says it's an emergency that they are creating. Weather manipulation, in my opinion. All right. Well, that is a thing. All right, that's a thing. Let's not pretend like weather modification isn't a thing. Like geoengineering, we covered it here quite often. Geoengineering is, in fact, it is a fact now. It's not even looked at as a conspiracy theory anymore. It's like, yes, we've always been doing it. But 10 years ago, if you talked about chemtrails or whatever, you would be looked at as though you were insane. Of course, that's how it works, right? Way after the fact, like what happened in New York in September. Pause here so I don't set off any alarms or flags, but in 2001, in the years following that, a good 10 years after that, if you challenged the official narrative, well, it was you're crazy. 20 years after, most people seem to realize what that was about. So that's how things go. It's well after the fact. Everyone knows what's going on. So that's how our world works now. A lot of deception afoot. All right, so let's get into what we've got for you. Let me just show you first of all this United Nations poll. For a second, let's take a look at this. We won't drill down too far on this. I just want to show you the poll question we have. 96% of the people say no, it's not an emergency, but the United Nations, their poll, United Nations Global Climate Poll, they have come to the determination that the people's voice is clear. They want action. I don't doubt that their poll was legitimate. A lot of people think this way. The biggest ever opinion poll on climate change has found 2/3 of people think it's a global emergency. Now, you saw the results here. 96% of you guys. Let's update it. So we get any more. Yeah, we're up to 72 votes now. And it's still holding firm at 96%, saying that no emergency. The survey shows people across the world support climate action and gives politicians a clear mandate to take the major action needed, according to the UN organization that carried out the poll. The UN Development Program questioned 1.2 million people in 50 countries, many of them young. That's interesting, isn't it? Many of them young. While younger people showed the greatest concern, 69% of those aged 14 to 18 saying there's a climate emergency, 58% of those over 60 agreed, suggesting there's not a huge generational divide. No, it's not a generational divide. It's a political divide. It's an ideological divide. Of course, even when climate, I'd like to see some more data on this study here and see how, if they bothered to ask anyone about what is are you religious in any way, and see how those numbers. See, because look, mostly on this channel here, mostly you guys that are watching, this is mostly a Christian viewing audience, professing Christian viewing audience. So you can see, that is definitely a demographic that looks at this thing a little differently for some reason. Wonder why that is. They say even climate action required significant changes in their own country. Majorities still backed the measures. Even when climate action required significant changes like losses in liberty and freedom in their own country, majorities still back the measures because they are fearful that something awful is going to happen. Because that's the way global politics is done today. In nations where fossil fuels, in other words, fear is the way policies are promoted these days. In nations where fossil fuels are a major source of emissions, people strongly supported renewable energy, including the United States, 65% in favor of that, Australia 76%, and Russia 51%. Look at Russia coming in last there. A lot of people in Russia not down with the renewable energy. I don't have any problem with renewable energy. It's just not a political issue. Ah, there you go, folks. There you go. Nice thunderstorm for you. Just setting the mood, just setting the tone perfectly for us today. 2/3 of people around the world said climate change is a global emergency. And so you see here how it breaks down. And look, Canada with the most people who are on board with the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. That would be Agenda 21 / Agenda 2030 / the Green New Deal. They're all the same thing. South Africa, fully in the red. Australia, fully in the red. Japan, fully in the red. Seems to me that where socialism is being heavily promoted or is firmly ensconced, people are on board with this. And there's the United States following right behind, too. They're coming right up, 65%. Where the destruction of forests is a big cause of emissions, people supported conservation of trees, with 60% support in Brazil and 57% in Indonesia. Overall, the most popular actions to tackle... Now, so what do people want to do? The most popular actions were protecting and restoring forests. Who would argue with that? Of course we want to protect and restore forests. That's just compassionate. That's just being a good steward of the planet. Followed by renewable energy and climate-friendly farming. All good ideas. The problem is this. Who's in charge of the movement? You see, it's not a movement that is where the people really have a say-so. Not if Bill Gates owns all the farming land, right? The promotion of plant-based diets was the least popular of 18 policies in the survey. Now, that's interesting. So, the world is not quite ready to buy into being vegetarian yet. At least as far as at least as a response to climate change. 30% support on eating a plant-based diet. I don't have a problem with eating a plant-based diet either. Once again, what's the ideology that's behind it is the question. Gender was a factor in some countries, with at least 5% more men and boys saying there's a climate emergency. Now, that's surprising to me. I don't know why. It just seems, I guess maybe because they've got Greta leading the charge. Maybe that's why I assumed more females would be on board. But 5%, that's probably, hey, that might be within the margin of error. So who knows? That's really not a significant difference. However, in 4 nations, U.S., Australia, Canada, and the U.K., significantly more women and girls were concerned about global heating. New term. We're not calling it global warming. Global heating. Heating sounds worse than warming, doesn't it? The UNDP ran the People's Climate Vote in 50 high, middle, and low-income countries representing more than half the world's people. experts at Oxford University weighted the replies to reflect the population of each nation. So the results anyway are this. The voice of the people is clear. Make it a little larger so you can see that. The voice of the people is clear, according to the UN. They want action on climate change, said Cassie Flynn, the UNDP's strategic advisor on climate change. If 64% of the world's people are believing in a climate emergency, then it helps governments to respond to the climate crisis as an emergency. The key message is that as governments are making these high-stake decisions, the people are with them. That is a good point. These governments, wherever you are, if you're in the United States, wherever, these governments need our support to push these big measures forward. They can't have it like it's been over the past few months with people, out in the streets doing protests. They need everyone, whether they are sincerely supporting or not, they need people. They need the people behind them for this to work. So you can be looking for initiatives to get more people behind this movement. Flynn said the survey connects the climate concerns of people, particularly the young, with governments at a time when accelerated action must be agreed. Must be agreed. In particular, at a United Nations Climate Summit in November. The climate crisis continued unabated in 2020, with the joint highest global temperatures on record, according to who? You're going to find just as many, if not more, scientists who don't agree. This isn't settled. It's not settled science, in other words. That's all I can really say about it here. You want more information about this in an uncensored way, start joining us over at armoroftruth.net right now, once a week. For now, we're planning Fridays, unless it happens that Dave and I will do a collaboration together on YouTube on that day. We're going to be doing typically on Fridays. I'll let you know, though. You'll have plenty of notice. But that's where we can talk freely. If you didn't catch it last week, Friday, it's still up on the website if you want to go check it out. I did a collaboration live stream with Days of Noah where we just spoke freely about the issues at hand. Anyway, the poll found the highest proportion of people saying there is a climate emergency was in the UK and Italy, both at 81%. Australia was at 72% and the US 65%. Look at that, 81% in the UK and Italy supporting what we'll call Sustainable Development Goals. Lowest proportion in Moldova, 50%. The relative low support for the promotion of plant-based diets may be because there are few plant-based options in some countries, or people may have felt that diet is more of a personal choice. Right. It is a personal choice. It's not more, it is a personal choice, but not anymore. Check out Ice Age Farmer on YouTube and check out his website if you want a detailed look inside this movement. Now, you don't have to agree with everything Christian is saying over at the Ice Age Farmer, but evaluate it for yourself. The reason why more men and boys said there was a climate emergency than women and girls in countries such as Nigeria and Vietnam may be because girls have less access to education in those places. Could be. Poll found that the more educated a person, the more education a person had completed, public education no less, the more likely they were to think there is a climate emergency. Right, of course. Why more women and girls are concerned in the 4 English-speaking nations is unclear. But of course, this is important, right? The more educated a person is, the more likely they were to think there is a climate emergency. All right, so how was the poll given? It was distributed via advertisements in video games and puzzles. So who's going to be more likely to respond to this poll? Young people who are hearing this daily in their schools. They're not hearing both sides of this story. They're hearing one side. They're hearing the globalist side. And that's enough of that for now. Let's go back to our poll. Once again, 2/3, globally 2/3, 65% in the United States, 80% in the UK, 72% in Australia of the people believe that that climate change is a global emergency. Over here, so far with almost 80 votes in, if you'd like to vote in this poll, check out the link. It's in the live chat right now. Or you can navigate over to the community tab on this YouTube channel, the Brad from Carolina YouTube channel, is climate change a global emergency. Let me just go ahead for you guys and pop that back into the live chat one more time. It's pinned to the top, but I'll put it in the live chat. It's in there for you now if you are having trouble getting there. So far, it's dropped 1%, 95% now. So we've got a couple people voting and saying we need a different solution. There is climate crisis. That climate change is a global emergency, but we need a different solution than Agenda 21 and Agenda 2030. Interesting. But I think what's most telling about this poll is that nobody, 0% out of 78 people have said, yes, we must follow the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. See if we got any more comments here. Eddie Vasquez chimes in and says it's all about money, buying new cars, energy-efficient appliances, which take up more resources to manufacture. Now, there's a good point. And do more harm to the environment than the older workhorses. Look up a lithium mine, and you'll see what I mean. Eddie Vasquez knows what's up. That's true. Thomas Allen says, hey, man, it's all a hoax. All right. All right. Well, thanks for all those comments. Let's get back over there. We'll check in with this poll as we move throughout the show today. Let me thank you all for joining us once again. Armor of Truth Live, number 132. Well, since we're talking about this, let me show you a picture out of Indonesia, Bali to be exact. Yeah, this is on the beach. To stop the spread, using beach facilities, lying down on the beach are not allowed. Now, I'm not sure about the provenance of this picture, but there it is. There it is. You know, it speaks for itself, right? And we've covered what's going on in Cyprus here lately. Actually, we didn't cover that here. We covered that on armoroftruth.net over on the website. Now, those live streams we've done over there, they will be available for you. Very soon we'll have those available for you to watch, all of them in replay. The Days of Noah stream is there, available for replay right now. Also, in China, Shanghai, here's a video from one of Summer's sources. Hopefully this will be, let's see, we're in Firefox. Let's make sure that the volume is up here for you. I want you to hear this, folks. This is social credit. This is what the social credit system in action looks and sounds like. So this is out of China. We're not surprised this coming out of China. What we want to point out here is, are you seeing things like this happening in the West? Are you seeing things like this happening in the United States? Probably in Canada, that things like this are happening. This is what social credit looks and sounds like.
Dear passengers, people who travel without tickets or behave disorderly or smoke in public areas will be punished according to regulations, and the behavior will be recorded in the individual credit information system. To avoid any negative record of personal credit, please follow the relevant regulations and help with the orders on the train and at the station.
To avoid a negative record of personal credit, do what you're told. You know, I can understand you don't want people smoking on the train. Gotcha. But that's not all. You're not just going to be asked to leave the train. Your social credit score is going to be damaged. Now, yeah, if someone's breaking the rules on the train, that's one thing. They don't like that. That makes smoking on the train with you. That's not cool. But that's not what it's about, is it? How far does it go? To avoid a negative record of personal credit. Personal credit. Do you support the party? Do you not support the party? 1984 is here. Okay? Lest anyone tell you otherwise or that you're crazy for thinking so. So once again, as I mentioned a moment ago, we do live streams over at armoroftruth.net. I'll show you what that looks like here. If you want to go over there and watch the live stream we did with Days of Noah, you can do that. Likewise, we do have a live chat that's available. It's not running at the moment. We only let that run on days when we're doing streams. An hour, maybe a couple hours before the stream and a few hours after the stream, we'll let the live chat roll. Soon, maybe we'll have an option for you, a Discord-like option where we'll have the opportunity for people to communicate with one another and share links 24 hours a day. That's one of the things that we're working toward. But for now, look at what we have for you. We have a full experience it's okay. I could say it's as good as YouTube, but it's better, obviously better than YouTube, because there are no restrictions on what we can say here. Anyway, you can check us out over here. Well, I'm logged in, so you can't see the button, but there's a button down here. You can go ahead and register for the live chat over here if you want. We're trying out a live chat system right now, and it went very well last time. So I just want to let you know, this is what we're working on. This is what supporting this mission. If you're supporting this mission with prayers or with donations, this is what we're working for, to have an independent platform where we can speak freely. Of course, this is always centered around moving forward the gospel of Jesus Christ in this world that needs it severely. And with this being said, your support is so needed, because now we're creating expenses. Let me explain what that means. This is how YouTube has controlled the narrative. Not just YouTube. You can't just blame YouTube. It's, big tech, Silicon Valley, has been able to control the narrative. Let me explain to you how this works. Over here on YouTube, we can come on here and do these live streams, and it doesn't cost anything. Maybe it costs me a few bucks a month to pay for some streaming software. I have to have a computer that will do some streaming, but YouTube's not charging us anything. And that's good, right? That is a good thing. Let's be clear about that. But you get what you pay for, I think. And on YouTube, we're not allowed to say many, many things, or your channel could be removed. Or, this channel, for 2 weeks at the beginning of June, was temporarily shut down for a community guideline strike. And, we're not trying to get community guideline strikes over here. We're trying to be here on YouTube because that's where most of the people are. It is the mission field. But our home is armoroftruth.net. But the reason this is important, the reason support is so necessary, and I'm not just saying me, support your favorite independent content creators or ministries or whatever, not just myself. I'm just telling you, this is what it takes. It has cost us I think at this moment, close to, probably over now, $120 to run this, to do this live stream and have it here. Now, imagine if you did that like we do it on YouTube, 3-4 times a week, thousands of dollars a month just to do your own live streaming and have your own videos hosted on a separate independent platform. This is why YouTube has cornered the market. They do it for free. In fact, YouTube loses money every year. Now, Google makes money, but YouTube as itself, as its own entity, does not make money. They lose money each year, and that is because we can see why now. The cost of hosting video this way it's high. It's high. So in order for guys like myself, Days of Noah, Daniel Apologetics too over there, and our buddy and our brother in Europe, or any of these guys out here doing this work, YouTube can turn you off at any minute. It's the free platform. So What are you going to do, guys? Now, all of us out here who are who believe in bringing forth the message of truth, which means, first of all, the gospel of Jesus Christ. That's first. And then the cultural issues that come along with that, building a proper scriptural cultural theology. How do we do that? Well, you better establish your own independent platform, or otherwise you don't have control. You don't have any control over when one day you might turn on your YouTube, look at your email, or try to access your YouTube channel, and it's gone. Soft totalitarianism will do that. Read the book. It's not behind me anymore, but the book "Live Not by Lies" by Rod Dreher. Maybe we need to get some of those and give a few away here, because he interviews people who lived in the Soviet Union during the time of hard totalitarianism, when Christians were persecuted to death for their faith. Don't think that's not coming here. Look what's happening in Canada. It's already happening. So we have to act. We have to respond. All right, but we'll be here on YouTube still. It's like going into the mission field. That's where we need to be. So I just wanted to explain that for you guys so you'd understand. That's what it takes today. If you want to speak freely and be independent, it requires an investment. You can't, to go out here and do it for free, it's not going to work. It's not going to happen. You can do it for free, but you have to play by their rules. So anyway, I wanted to explain that. So come and join us if you would. You can find the donate links over here. There are many ways for you to donate. You can donate to the ministry if you prefer. You could donate to me personally. We try not to solicit that too much, but if you prefer to donate personally to myself, you can do that too. There are links to help you with all that. Check out the website. Go watch the video that I did with Dave and Noah last Friday. And we appreciate your support. And more than anything, your prayers. That's what we need. So, as we kick it off today, I want to talk a little bit about the world that we used to have. Those of you who might be Gen Xers or whatever, you may be in your 40s, you might be in your 50s, your 60s, 70s. You remember a world that is it's really not like the one that we're in today. And I, for one, miss it. I miss it a lot. And I don't think, we saw the signs for years that something was happening, some kind of movement. We called it the New World Order. It was coming. It was coming. It was always coming. It was around the corner. It was the threat. It was the threat. We're in it. Here we are. 1984 is now. Brave New World is now. We're in it. And I miss that traditional world. Our peace of mind and heart has been poisoned by a globalist, what we'll call, and show a little bit later to be the case, our peace of mind and heart has been poisoned by a global Luciferian movement that is intent upon culling humanity and all the freedoms and liberties in the name of peace and safety. They will tell you it's for your best, it's in your best interest, it's for your benefit, it is for your safety. This is all about peace, they will say. This makes me, quite often, I feel sad about this because my daughter's growing up in a world that I don't recognize, but it's the only one she knows. And that makes me sad. That's a sad scenario because these kids are not going to know what liberty is. It makes me sad, and it makes me want to fight righteously. So, as I speak to you now, my brothers and sisters out there, and those of you who may not be Christians who are watching this, who also see that there's something wrong and you don't want the world to go this way, Understand. That's why we're doing what we're doing. It's always first to put forward the gospel so that people can come into a saving knowledge of Jesus Christ. Always first. But what's also very much a part of sharing the gospel is understanding this culture that we live in. But for my brothers and sisters in Christ out there, we belong to the light. I don't mean that in an esoteric sense. I mean it in a John chapter 1 sense. The darkness can't behold the light. We belong to Jesus Christ. He is the light. We belong to each other. In that respect, since we're a family, we belong to one another. And we will be family for eternity. Now, let that sink in, especially if you're someone here who's not a Christian. You've never heard this, or you think it's just nonsense. There is no other promise like that in the world. Ever. In reality, there is no other promise like that. The promise of eternity, eternal life. Christianity is exclusive in the claims of absolute truth and the promise of salvation for whoever repents and follows Jesus Christ, which means to make Jesus the Lord of your entire life. Not just where it's convenient, but all areas of your life. Because Jesus is Lord of all creation. In fact, He is the Creator. He's not your butler. He's not there to give you what you need. He's there to take you with Him to eternity, to glory, what we call in the Christian faith glory. So, brothers and sisters, we're blessed even beyond our ability to comprehend. We live by faith not because we wish for it, but because our Savior has given us every reason to know that Christianity is true. It's all there. From the general revelation of creation to the special revelation of His Word. We know that the gospel is the power of God for salvation, which means to be saved. But saved from what? The wrath. To be saved from the wrath of a holy and just God. Now, as we talk about these issues, you see many times Christians are we're accused of pursuing social injustice. We're accused of, why don't you support the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations? Don't you love the earth? Do you want to destroy the earth? Of course not. You saw the comment earlier in there. Let's look at that one more time. The comment from our poll question today. Right there. Emilios Man says, the realm is so large we couldn't hurt it if we tried. But he also says here, now I'm not saying to pollute needlessly, just saying they're making this stuff up to further their profit. Yes, we're not. I'm not saying that. The fact that we don't go along with United Nations Sustainable Development Goals doesn't mean we want to destroy the earth. That, folks, is called a dialectic. Saying that there are only two sides to be on here. It's a false paradigm. Of course, there are more than two sides. But Christianity has been marginalized to the point that we're not heard anymore. We are called to be stewards of this planet. Not to pollute it, not to destroy it. But this movement, sustainable movement, the movement for Sustainable Development Goals, Agenda 21, 2030, it's not about saving humanity. So this is dangerously oversimplified, and it creates a context for division. Christians, as brothers and sisters in Christ, we seek to glorify our Savior, and that means affirming and living according to God's law, living by Scripture, scriptural, cultural theology. Applies to all areas of our lives. There is one true transcendent source for justice. Any other form of justice is limited. Man-made justice is limited, it's flawed, and it's weak, and it has no unchanging foundation to stand on. And there lies the problem, and an essential characteristic of an anti-Christian, anti-human authoritarianism. Standards that are always changing. Efficiency in temporarily expedient policies. Policies that are good for the moment, based on what the culture wants. Justice based on an ever-waving sensuality on the heart, based on the heart of man. Doing things right according to emotion. True justice, founded on God's law, is effective because it's founded on doing the right things. Not doing things right, but doing the right things. Access to eternal truth is what we're talking about here. Justice, when you hear this term social justice, these two movements, they're one. The agenda for the 21st century, as part of it, it seems to me, this is my opinion, I'll make the argument for this, that and the social justice movement are the same thing. They're working for the same goal, communitarianism. But the term justice needs no adjective or qualifying helper word. Anytime someone qualifies the word justice or the concept of justice, they're smuggling in with that an agenda. Justice and truth has no agenda. It's self-evident. Eternally, never changing. Anything else, anything other than that is neither truth nor true justice. So, we're currently at war. Truth must be defended and God's word proclaimed, not only because we're right, but because humanity, once again, is being culled by the forces of darkness. And the Great Commission of making disciples of all nations, that's our command. Even if it's unpopular and uncomfortable, even if we have to set up our own platforms. And thank God we can set up our own platforms. We're blessed. We need to take advantage of the blessings we have and maybe be a little less whiny about the things we don't like. But where God's law is rejected, confusion and debasement are normalized. And if you don't think that's true, I invite you to look around your world. Storm going on here, folks. I don't know if it's adding to the ambiance or not, but it's kicking out there. 84 votes are in so far in our poll question. Is climate change a global emergency? 94% out of 84 people say climate change is not an emergency. 6% of you do say, though, yes, it is, but we need a different solution other than Agenda 21 or 2030. So if we have any more comments in at the moment, Loney Oliveira says, man created, accelerated, and exasperated the issue at hand, therefore they cannot fix it, only make it worse, which is why we need the Savior, Yeshua. Excellent. Thanks for that, Loney. That's a good comment. Thank you, folks, for your comments and for voting in the poll. We'll be back here to check on this poll again in just a bit. Go over there and give us your response and leave us a comment in there on what you think about this movement as we move on into... Now, I want to share with you a truther, a fellow in this work. Please Stop the Ride. There's a YouTube channel called Please Stop the Ride and a website here and a blog called pleasestoptheride.com. She does great work. I enjoy her work a lot. Summer introduced me to this channel, and we're really happy to share it with you and promote it. Now, what I'm going to do today is, so definitely, there's the link. The link to her blog, her website is in the description of this video. It's in where the links and sources section is, just a little ways down in the description box. So check that out and look at her work. She does a good job of talking about these issues and being able to keep it out here on YouTube for the most part. But check out her blog. All right. Now, I'm not making any claims about whether this is Christian-based or not. We're just talking about someone who is on the ball in understanding sustainable development, goals, United Nations Agenda 21 goals, sharing articles, diving deep and shining a light on what's going on in the world today. And so today I want to look with you. I want to look at one of her videos here that is going to introduce to us someone by the name of Lucian Tarnowski. Let me just go ahead and go over here and get a picture of Lucian. I didn't have one pulled up for you. We'll see him in just a minute in the video, but give you a look at Lucian Tarnowski here. Here you go. Here's the guy. Now we're going to get a description of who this person is. And one of the reasons we're talking about this today is because, well, I'm not trying to make claims about this gentleman. I'm just saying characteristics, certain characteristics. This man is not the Antichrist, okay? I'm not saying that. But characteristics, as we look, and discern what might that figure say and do. Now, because the whole world's not following behind this guy. Not yet. But it might sound a lot like this. All right, so that's what we're going to do now. Before we do that, I want to share with you, we have to understand what is stakeholder capitalism and the tyranny of experts. An article from kickstartqueenlands.com.au gives us a good understanding here of the difference between stakeholder capitalism and shareholder. What is a stakeholder and what is a shareholder? This term stakeholder is kind of new, right? Maybe it's new to some of you guys. I mean, we all know what shareholders are. People that have a share in a business, we could say a stake in a business. They have a financial. They're financially involved. The success of the business will directly affect them. The success or failure of that business will affect them financially. This has to do with money. But we have a new term in the world today, and it's not a new term, but it's a term we need to know. Stakeholder capitalism, because it is found throughout the Agenda 21 document. You can find this at the United Nations website, United Nations Sustainable Development. Search for it, you'll find this. This is the Agenda 21. People will tell you, I think this doesn't exist. Really? It doesn't? Now, it's dry reading. It's tough to get through, and it's like that for a reason. Stakeholder capitalism is not a phrase I ever heard before the year 2020. This is from Stephen Andrew, writing about stakeholder capitalism. He says, but now I seem to hear it everywhere I go. The best way to understand what it means is to think of a company as it was once understood, where the CEO of a company and its managers are regarded as answerable to the shareholders. The shareholders decide which way the company goes. They're the actual owners of the company. The shareholders would be the actual owners of the company. They held a fiduciary duty as managers to always act in the best interests of their shareholders. And if they failed to do so, the shareholders could boot them out and appoint someone who did. Not anymore. That was the old normal. Now, under the quote-unquote new normal, the meaning of fiduciary duty has undergone a radical shift. Now, a CEO or manager's fiduciary duty is to the company's stakeholders, not its shareholders. And these stakeholders could be anyone from the local school. Yes, it doesn't have to be a person. It could be a local school, local community action group, or an international environment lobby, non-governmental organization, for example, or a regulator to your government. This is how public and private merge, and that's not good for you. Far from being a technical legal point, this shift in meaning changes everything. So this idea from shareholders to what we hear now as stakeholders, stakeholder capitalism, this changes everything. It is what has been driving the wholesale transfer of power away from those who own something to those who can claim a stake in it. What does that mean? It's going to affect your life in some way, and will end up changing the very nature of government all over the world. This is not just a national deal. This is global. Anyone who doubts this need only read last month's High Court decision. This, once again, is in Australia, where the Commonwealth government was found guilty for having breached its fiduciary duty by approving a new coal mine in the country. Now, you'll hear people say today that, the government doesn't work like it used to. This is why. Corporations and their stakeholders are making decisions for everyone now. Public and private have come together. You don't want your government to be private. That's not good for you. That's like, we'll move on. The case was brought by a group of teenagers who argued that as stakeholders with a vested interest in the state of the planet, the Commonwealth government had a fiduciary duty to act in their interest by not approving the mine. And they won in the High Court. Now, this might, on the surface, might sound like a good thing, right? The people can rise up and change things. But is that true? The implications of this decision and other similar ones we've seen in the courts recently further shift power away from the people and into the hands of vested interest groups and those who really run the government, which is more and more private corporations. The bureaucrat, the public official, the technician, the scientist, the technocrat, the systems analyst, the managerial class known as the experts. Stakeholder capitalism is technocracy. So when you hear the term technocracy, that means government by experts, not by elected officials, by experts. Stakeholder capitalism is technocracy. That's why the other name for stakeholder capitalism obviously is technocracy, a system of government that merges state and corporate power, public and private, together. That is the essence of communitarianism, all governed by a small cabal of elite technocratic experts who know what's best for society and everyone in it. This is how an entity like the United Nations can have real power. It's why we're seeing so many elites in politics and business calling for more and more public-private partnerships. They want a system where the only people they will be accountable or answerable to are each other. They don't have to listen to you. In the old days, such partnerships were known by another name. Back then, we called it corruption at the top. Either way, this new system will be the very antithesis of democracy. So that gives us a definition. When you hear him speaking of stakeholders in this piece, now that's just one part of this. The other part is I want to pay attention to the ideology. Lucian Tarnowski is a hermeticist. In that sense, he is a Luciferian. Whether he announces it or even knows it, I'm sure he knows it. But whether whether people know it, you're serving the adversary. But we listen to these. This is the movement for global consciousness, a unified planet. That's what we're hearing here. Under what? Unified under what? Under who? All right. So once again, thanks to Please Stop the Ride. Check out our YouTube channel and her blog. The link is in the description. Down in the section where I normally put links and sources, you'll find Please Stop the Ride's blog. Check out her YouTube channel. Good, short, bite-sized videos that you can easily share. Support her. Keep up with her because, like everyone else, it's hard for her to keep making videos because of the content. Anyway, let's get to it here. So we're going to play her video, but I encourage you to go to her website and her YouTube channel and watch her content. So I want to introduce you now to Lucian Tarnowski, a man who looks and sounds a lot like an Antichrist figure might. All right.
Brought to us by the World Economic Forum and others, but Do you know that there's also an alternative narrative that stems from the same circles and is seeking to accomplish the same ends? Meet Lucian Tarnowski, son of Count Arthur Tarnowski, said to be a part of the Polish aristocracy, descendant of Catherine the Great, Empress of Russia, and John Jacob Astor.
So it wouldn't be all that far-fetched to start making claims of Illuminati, would it?
Lucian has a long history with the World Economic Forum and is one of their young global leaders.
I've been fortunate enough, I've been to Davos the last 12 years, and the one thing I noticed from attending probably 100 plus World Economic Forum events is the system we have, the house of cards we have, is designed that way. It's designed to create this kind of pyramid model. It's a planetary pyramid scheme. And don't expect the people at the top to pull the bottom out because they've got the longest to fall. And so when you recognize that this wholesale systems change essential, I started to realize that we can't look to existing global leadership to be designing completely new models.
In 2015,
okay, so far, don't let the hat throw you off. Okay, that's what it's there to do. It's there to hypnotize you into a state. It's interesting here. Look at this over here. Remember when we did the video on Satanism gone mainstream? Interesting there. Anyway, yeah, don't let the hat throw you off. I think it's there to lull you into some other, to lull you to sleep, perhaps. But listen to what he's saying. And also listen to what Please Stop the Ride here has to say about this. I'm going to play most of her video because she's done a fantastic job. So let's put it to use.
Lucian wrote about the second human potential movement, that the first human potential movement started in the 1960s with places like the Esalen Institute and people like Aldous Huxley, and how Professor Klaus Schwab, creator of the World Economic Forum, had argued that the leading economic ideology was shifting
Dr. Evil.
from capitalism to talentism, a new era where human capital would become more important to countries, cities, and companies than financial capital.
Okay, now what we've just learned, this idea about stakeholder versus shareholder. Look what Klaus Schwab said. If talent is becoming the decisive competitive factor, we can be confident in stating that capitalism is being replaced by talentism. What does that mean? Just as capital replaced manual trades during the process of industrialization, capital is now giving way to human talent. Human potential movement. Says, I remain optimistic that as our primary economic ideology, what? Our economic ideology? Yes. It's a religion. Shifts to talentism, we're in fact giving birth to a second human potential movement. But as with any other major society shift throughout history, there are winners and losers. Which one will you be? Change gives birth to opportunity, but it's important to be on the right side of change, right? That's what social credit's all about. You want to be on the right side of history, don't you? You don't want to be over there with those crazy Christians. They're going to get it wrong. You're going to hear that.
Lucian's a big fan of the United Nations and their Sustainable Development Goals.
The UN Charter is, one of the most important documents of certainly the existence of modern society.
He talks about the idea of hyperstition, when a group of people share a belief system, that the feedback loops created will propel people toward a desired outcome. Lucian says to think of them what you will, but organizations like the Masons have been very effective at tapping into collective intelligence. That he became fascinated with that and started to look at knowledge traditions in the Masons and the Templars and their lodges and safe houses.
Okay, now here is where you're going to hear him tell you very plainly what ideology is behind this movement. It's not just him. He's not like an outlier. Folks, he is the superstar, one of the superstars of the movement.
Because the one thing we know for sure is to get us through this like eye of the needle of this decade, to kind of rise to the challenge of multiple challenges at the moment, we need to create a human hive mind. We need to bring the planet's best talent together, applied around these areas of systems change.
He says these areas of systems change. He's speaking specifically of the SDGs, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. If you want to know more about what Agenda 21 is, the history of it and its purposes, I can direct you to our podcast. You can find it on Spotify, on Apple Podcast or iTunes. You can even find it on Audible now. If you use Audible to listen to audiobooks, you can find our podcast over there for free. And you'll find a podcast there titled Agenda 21, History and Purpose. Understand, you'll see where this is coming from. It's because there's going to be plenty of people as it gains popularity and more soothing characters like this come forward to woo the younger folks into the movement. You're going to hear this thing presented in all sorts of glowing light, right? But it's dark.
And so that's what we set out to do with players, is how can we create almost like a Premier League of planetary solutions. Places we recognized is like the oldest strategy there is, since time began. The Templars, the Masons, religious organizations, monastic organizations, they've created this network of physical spaces for people to meet and gather. It's so important that we come together and we share space. And so we believe one of the kind of really obvious strategies here is to create this network of what we're calling planetary embassies, physical spaces that gather people together around transformation.
Okay. Transformation is the goal, right? Transformation. I would suggest that it's transformation through transgression. Transformation to what? Who's in charge? Is it revolution? Is it reformation? Transformation into what? All right, let's listen to a little more of what she has to say.
A student of the Hermetic Kabbalah, Lucian really seems to like using symbolism in particular numbers.
I see that as a universal pattern of of reality, that everything is a fractal, and so kind of as the Hermetic principles showed with correspondence, that and as above and so below.
Okay, that when he's speaking of there, the theory of correspondence in Hermeticism is that's as above, so below. The universe is the macro, and then the atoms are the micro. As above, so below. The correspondence theory. Let's listen to a little more.
His earlier venture, Brave New Talent, enabled Fortune 1000 clients like GE and Lockheed Martin to cooperate and collaborate around a shared purpose and to tap into the collective knowledge of their talent through machine learning.
And essentially, the Hermetic principles, and you see here, there's no question. There's they're not hiding anything. Brave New Talent, where of course, they would think that Aldous Huxley's work is a positive depiction of society. But of course, the Hermetic principles, as above, so below, the universe is as the atoms are. This is to present the idea that we are all one, right? This is why I was pointing out recently, thanks to Summer and her research on Sasha Stone. These guys are promoting the same movement. Sasha Stone's going to tell you over here that he's, anti-jab and he's pro-Trump and he's no. He's talking to aliens in the desert. Yeah, he's happy to tell you that's what he's doing. And it's about it's about consciousness. It's about ascending. Sasha Stone will tell you himself, the mechanics of ascension, his Lazarus project he's working on now. we've got videos here for you to check out about this. This is where the New Age, it's everywhere now. The New Age is in the conservative movement now. It's so as these people are presented to you as on the opposite sides, Lucian Tarnowski is on one side and Sasha Stone is on the other, don't fall for that. They're promoting the same thing. And that is, wow, global consciousness. Yeah, that's the storm, folks. North Carolina has big ones. Big ones. Let's continue as long as we can here.
His current venture, Sivana House and Foundation, is said to be all about how to connect the people, the talent, the capital, and the knowledge necessary to create the wide-scale shift for real global systems change.
This shutdown is actually beneficial for the movement towards consciousness?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I don't think a caterpillar can become a butterfly without a chrysalis.
Okay, this is the part that I really wanted you guys to hear. One of the parts. What? So the shutdown is good for the movement. As Lucian Tarnowski sits Indian style on his very plush rug, the shutdown hasn't affected him. He's not starving. He's not struggling. No, it's good for the global consciousness movement, says Mark Abadi. Sadly, of course. Now, let me ask you a question, brothers and sisters in Christ. Can you find it in your heart to have compassion for these people? Can you find time in your day to pray for these gentlemen? Because that's what we need to be doing. It's difficult. Difficult because these things, we can see what these things are, but ultimately we have to realize that God is sovereign. The battle is already over. The battle is won. People like this we need to be praying for. Joe Biden. It's tough, right, when you say that out loud, but that's our command. Pray for the leaders. Pray for these people, because they're eternally deceived, and they're leading much of the world down that path too. Anyway, I know that's a tough one. That's a tough one. But it's our command. Now, it doesn't mean we don't expose this stuff. Ephesians 5:11. We need to. We need to talk about this and, expose it. But at the same time, with compassion, pray for these people, because their end is not going to be good.
And Mama Gaia has sent us to our rooms right now, and we have we had to have a pattern interrupt of our behavior.
Okay, now this is what the New Age movement is saying now about the pandemic. Mother Gaia has sent us to our rooms. That's what the lockdown is for. We deserve this because we have harmed the planet. That's the rhetoric. That's the narrative behind this, right? We've harmed the planet, so Mama Gaia has sent us to our rooms. But you don't see Lucian Tarnowski struggling at all. Mama Gaia sent us to our rooms. Widespread starvation, food shortages, water shortages. Have you seen South Africa lately? Oh, no. Mother Gaia has just sent us to our rooms for a minute. There's a big problem with that narrative. That is the narrative of affluence and elite.
And actually, I feel that, at the same time, I acknowledge there's so much suffering and pain and financial insecurity and sickness and people dying, and there's all these, things that are happening right now. But if we can zoom out a bit.
Yeah, just zoom out. Don't look at that. Don't look at the suffering, right? Don't pay attention to that because, hey, that's just necessary right now.
And not just only...
It's necessary because our goals are what's more... sustainable development goals, that's what's important. We can stand a little suffering, right? It's just collateral damage.
Focus on the suffering and the cost of these times. if we can zoom out and recognize that we did actually need a pattern interrupt for us not to completely screw ourselves.
When he says for us not to completely screw ourselves, he's talking about himself and his compatriots. He doesn't care about you. Right? That's what the Hermetic principles are about. It's not about anyone else. It's about the self. It's about rising and ascending in yourself.
You know, we've been driving so fast towards a cliff edge that, you know, we needed something like this to happen.
Okay. We needed something like this to happen. And in fact, well, is it too far of a leap now to just say, go ahead and yes, okay, so we created it. The Project for a New American Century, the PNAC document, where those folks said, we need something like a new Pearl Harbor, and they went out and they created it. Wow, there's an exclamation point on that note. Wow.
Lucian started having parties at Davos and elsewhere that were set in 2030 when the Sustainable Development Goals had already been achieved, and all they needed to do was to lay out how they got there.
There's so many incredible technologies coming to the agricultural space. I believe that Kimball Musk said that the opportunity for ag tech is greater than all of the opportunity that was created.
Agricultural technology. That's ag tech. We've got it in I'm sorry. I'm getting in the flesh a little bit here. Go ahead.
By the internet thus far. So it's, you know, phenomenal. Like, this is both enormous impact, both an imperative, as well as like one of the greatest economic opportunities of our time. Just like the SDGs, there is no greater economic opportunity than us achieving the global goals. But also
the SDGs, that is specifically Agenda 21, the Sustainable Development Goals. So when you hear that term mentioned, the SDG, that's Agenda 21. That's the Sustainable Development Goals. That is this.
So there's no greater economic necessity than us achieving the economic goal, the global goals.
Right. As you can see, the body language there, he accidentally said what he meant to say. They certainly are economic goals, aren't they? Let's back up here for a second. I'll let you hear that piece once again. Check this out. He misspoke. They are economic goals.
So there's no greater economic necessity than us achieving the economic goal, the global goals.
I'll tell you, folks, this storm is raging outside the window here, but we're going to keep powering through it. So if you don't mind, you could say a prayer for us right now as I'm sitting here with these headphones, and we're going to keep pushing through it.
To help develop that story, Lucian founded the Unified Planet game, the UP game, to enable 2030 civilization prototyping necessary to deliver on the Sustainable Development Goals and beyond, with the ultimate intention being to gather as many leaders of the Great Transition as possible, creating a decentralized United Nations for communities to accelerate the evolution of regenerative culture.
So the game itself, the Unified Planet, is actually our intention is that it will be created as a platform cooperative where every player is an owner of the game.
Right. Brilliant.
And our goal is to have 1 billion players by 2030. But like starting with this magic number of 144,000.
What was that again? This magic number of what? Let's hear it again.
Brilliant.
And our goal is to have 1 billion players by 2030. But like starting with this magic number of 144,000.
Okay, of course. Why is he using that biblical term, that symbolic number from Revelation, the 144,000? Because in Hermeticism, in Hermetic Kabbalah, no doubt this is what he's clearly talking about, the numbers. You want to assign things, numbers and ideas that have power, according to you. Anyway, the number, scripturally, those are just numbers. They're symbolic, but the numbers have no power. Of course, in Hermetic Kabbalah, in Satanism, in New Age movements, in astrology, yes, numbers have power. Numbers don't have power, my friends. Numbers are transcendent concepts. They don't have power. But this is just another example of using occultism as a way to move these globalist goals forward.
It's a kind of fun number.
He says it's kind of a fun number. It's just a fun number, right? I don't think that the lake of fire is a fun concept. See, it's all about fun, because when you're in control and when you can sit on your plush rug with your meditation gong and no one's breathing down your neck and you're not going to starve because of food shortages and water shortages, planned no less. Well, you can just have fun with everything, especially people's lives.
And our intention is they're fundable community solutions with the people that can actually execute them behind them. So imagine each up level creates a whole kind of pyramid of other levels. So this one up level around sound in hospitals is going to come up with 8 suggestions, 8 recommendations, and each one of those recommendations could have a whole new up level focused on it, specifically about getting it into execution. So I would say like part think tank in terms of applying self-organizing collective intelligence, but also like getting shit done, like actually moving it into action. And the most important thing that's missing right here is that communities are often coming up with the ideas they need to solve their own problems, but they don't have the funding to go execute on it. So if we can organize funding in such a way that communities can be like effective recipients of capital to
stakeholder capital in communities. And how is that done? How are they going to fund this at the community level? Agenda 21. Sustainable Development Goals with non-governmental organizations. How is that done? Well, you elect your mayor and whatever, your town council. But how do they make their decisions on what to do? You send them there to represent you, to do the right thing by you in your local government. But who's telling them what to do? How do they decide how to run this? How does your town manager, your city planner, one of the most important jobs in the nation is the town planner, the city manager. Where are they getting their directions from? Who's telling them when they go off to seminars? Who is it that's sending them information on how to better serve your people, your constituency? Well, it's these folks through the non-governmental organizations that are there to pump this. Now, how does that work? Because as you'll know, Agenda 21 is a non-binding agreement. That takes the teeth out of it, doesn't it? It's non-binding. It's not really. They don't really have to do it. No, that just means that your government, the federal government is not going to be voting on it. It's going to be implemented outside of the government. You're not going to vote for these things. Some of them you will, but most of them are just going to be implemented by the people you elected, because the non-governmental organizations are informing them, showing them this is what's best. You see, you want to be on board with the Sustainable Development Goals, Mr. Town Manager, Mr. City Planner, because you don't want your community to be left behind. And if you don't want your community to be left behind, let us build you a new recreation center or a new walking park, and we'll do that with private money. Therefore, we'll combine the public and private, and before long, your town is no longer your town. It belongs to several private corporations.
Affect social change. We think that's a really high leverage area of impact.
We've talked about their idea of regenerative. These people are looking to remake, to redesign all of nature. Don't buy into it when the UN or Big Ag or anyone throw their buzzwords at you.
And it was just a kind of fun, playful way of saying, how can we use language as spells, essentially, as a way to literally spell the future we wish to create.
And or big ag or anyone throw their buzzwords at you.
And it was just it was a kind of fun, playful way of saying, how can we use language as spells, essentially, as a way to literally spell the future we wish to create. Use language as spells, essentially, as a way to literally spell the future we wish to create. Use language as spells, essentially, as a way to literally spell the future we wish to create. Because language is so important, our choice of words is so important, and so that's where.
Do I need to add anything to that? It's not hidden. It's not hidden anymore. It's right out in the open.
That whole idea came from.
Now here's where things get a little awkward for me. I need to point out a connection between the Unified Planet game and an event that's being put on as kind of a people's reset, the Greater Reset. I've nothing to say about anyone involved except for one person, which I saw as also participating with Lucian and the others.
Okay, so Stephen Brooks is a character, another one of the stars of the Sustainable Development Movement. And just by listening to their excitement over how they're pushing forward their sustainable development goals. Now, some of the things they're doing, of course, they look and sound good. Of course, where is it leading? Where is it leading, and who's ultimately in control of it? What is it really about? But let's listen to what he says here. Let's let this go on.
Yeah, feeling so pumped. So love listening to everybody. It's amazing what everybody's doing. It's incredible how we are all working on the different aspects of the same dream. It's unbelievable how much more organized we're getting. You know, it's like, I think a lot of this brilliance was like flourishing in the 60s, but the cloud of the good LSD and the just, you know, lack of focus. Now we're finally ready to
right, because LSD was for the hippies in the 60s. Right now it's about ayahuasca and the sustainable development goals, and look how organized we're getting because of Mama Gaia is putting us in our rooms but giving us this opportunity to grow our consciousness and ascend. The mechanics of ascension, blah blah blah.
It's a blast off. So I'm honored to be a part of it. I'm sorry that I missed the last several calls. I'm literally like in the field every day. It's rainy, beginning of rainy season here in Costa Rica, and so it's like full blown planting madness happening. And I'm doing it every day.
We love you, Stephen, so much.
I love you.
It's Netflix. So Stephen is part of what we try and do with the game is bring together the kind of archetypal characters of systems change. And there's none. There's
You hear the language. Systems change. Now, it might not. We shouldn't automatically say, hey, don't change the system. Well, yeah, I mean. No, changing the system could be a good thing, but we have the game plan. We know where this systems change is leading. Communitarianism, you have no rights in communitarianism. The community has the rights.
You've seen many of them today, so thank you, Stephen.
I think Stephen's involvement in the Greater Reset should cause us to pause as he's set to talk about communities.
You guys, this is Alegria, man. This is like the top looking down. If you look way down there, you can see the top of the yoga deck. But this is Alegria Village, baby. You guys, it's exploding. You guys, everything here is we've sold 7 lots in the last 2 weeks.
Now, does this sound like a salesman to you? What did he just show us? Let's just take a second here and What did he actually show us? I don't want to go too far back, but look at this. He showed us let me get it on here. What did he show us? Where'd it go? I can't find it. He showed us a mountain, an empty field. Here's what he showed us. Trying to pump up interest, get investors. Let me show you this empty field we've got here. We've sold 7 lots. I detect a salesman.
You guys, it's exploding. You guys, everything here is we've sold 7 lots in the last 2 weeks. Like, people from all over the world are extending. And we have we have a show on Netflix all about what we're doing coming out on July 10th with Zac Efron.
It's kind of like certain medical interventions that begin with the letter V. If it was really that useful and necessary, would you have to push it and promote it so hard and convince people? Wouldn't they just see its benefits naturally and fall in behind it?
So I'm ready for serious exposure.
But what sort of road will he lead people on as a part of the Unified Planet Transition Team, with their eyes on the prize of the SDGs and this localized, decentralized United Nations and the human hive mind?
My hope is that we could have at least 1 million people connected, working together as part of this planetary hive mind, playing this game on what could be best described as the Earth shot. You know, we had the moon shot, now we've got the Earth shot, which is this goal by 2030 to create this system, win for all system.
That, my friends, is monetizing the Earth. What you're hearing pitched to you right now is, we'd like to monetize the Earth for our benefit. We're going to sell that to you as though it's for your benefit, because we're saving the planet. Look at us. We're saving the planet. Don't you want to be a part of, don't you want to be a stakeholder as we save the planet?
Maybe he's a good guy, just mixed up with the wrong people.
Possibly,
or maybe he knows where the up game is meant to take us, right in line with the World Economic Forum and their Great Reset and the United Nations as they transform our world with their so-called Sustainable Development Goals.
I just spent my whole morning today working with one of our nursery guys where we're literally repainting Costa Rica with bridges. I started a couple of eco villages.
You guys know what a used car salesman sounds like? I'm sure most of you who 40, 50, 60 years old or more, you know, you've dealt with used car salesmen before. You probably know what we're dealing with here. You know what this is.
That I live in. It's called La Ecovia. There are currently 45 families living there from 22 countries. We have 50 kids in the school that the parents co-created. We recently purchased the property next door, which is 170 acres. We're doing
There's an important term, co-created. The school that the parents co-created. That's terminology, very specific terminology there, folks. What are we talking about, co-created? We co-create our reality, don't we? Don't we manifest our reality with our thoughts and words? Human Potential Movement, Tony Robbins, New Age Movement. It's, not to be too hard on that term, the way he used it, but there's certain terms here that throw up more and more, as if we need more red flags to know what we're dealing with here.
120 more lots. This is all merged with massive reforestation, massive food forest, major food production, and we're focusing...
Massive, major, intense, blowing up, exploding. Okay.
Now on elders, we're creating a whole elder village. And now we've just identified 4 properties around us. Our goal is to get a replicable model of 1,001 hectares, which is 2,400 acres, and literally create this model that merges conservation, reforestation, regenerative agriculture, food processing, cooperative farmer, brand-driven agriculture. I think what I would want to bring to this conversation and to anyone that is working towards goals like this is the genetics, how important the genetic piece is. We need to get massive nurseries and all of our land projects spreading the best genetics, not only on our own properties, but in the bioregions where we live. Oh, and yesterday we launched the Ecoversity. We had Alex Gray and Charles Eisenstein and a whole cast of beautiful characters. We had 3,500.
If you know Charles Gray and Charles Eisenstein or Eisenstein, these are people who have been involved for years with the permaculture movement, which, once again, on the surface, good idea, right? It's a good idea, but there's politics. There's an ideology behind it that you can't, that is inherent with it. The permaculture movement, if you're not familiar, is just a movement where the land, you're living with the land. You're not overdeveloping the land. You're living with it, which is obviously sounds like a good idea. It sounds like a biblical way to live, right? But it's not. It's not. And there's an ideology that comes along with this, and it's seductive. It's seductive because especially if you've been indoctrinated in public education by sustainable development goals, by globalism, then you're going to think, yeah, we have to do this because we have to save the planet. Can you save the planet? Does anybody stop to ask, can we save it? Not that we shouldn't do anything. Once again, it is a false paradigm to say either you're on board with the sustainable development goals or you hate the earth. False paradigm. Not true. As Christians, we are commanded to be good stewards of the earth.
People register. We want to be a platform for anyone, anywhere that wants to start teaching really this new global redesign skills.
I'm afraid a lot of good people might be tricked into participating with the wholesale redesign of life on Earth.
That's a very good point. A very good point she's made. And she's going to use a term here that I love, and that is laboratory life, right? Laboratory life in the new normal. Let's let her finish up this piece here.
Especially through the buzzwords like regenerative ag. We've talked about this.
Regenerative ag, that just means sustainable development. As time goes on and people start catching on to what Agenda 21 and Agenda 2030 and the Green New Deal, once people start realizing what it actually is, people catch on. This has happened several times already. We used to be dealing with something called global warming. Now it's called climate change. The term has to keep changing. The truth has to keep morphing. In other words, they have to stay one step ahead of those people who are actually awake and conscious.
Let the good feelings built up around these weaponized terms. They're spells, remember? Don't let them trick you.
If companies aren't serving the common good, they don't deserve to be in business. And so I think now, more and more consumers will be looking to serving.
Okay, now there's a good point. Now, if the companies aren't serving the greater good, they don't deserve to be in business. If the people aren't doing what the experts tell them and going down to the pharmacy to get the thing, they don't deserve to participate in society. You see? This is social credit. This is what we're dealing with. This has to be called out. Let's listen to him say that one more time. This is it. This is
serving the common good.
Let me back up.
Aren't.
Remember, don't let them trick you.
If companies aren't serving the common good, they don't deserve to be in business.
Now, how do we define the common good? See, that's the question. This all sounds good, but we need a definition of terms. If you want to know how to define the term common good, it's right there. Common good means you must live in a stack 'em, pack 'em community. Maybe they're trying to sell these eco villages in Costa Rica. Are you going to be living in one of those? Said he had, 11 different nations, whatever. Many different people from many different nations living there. Who can afford to do? Who can travel? People in Bali can't come and go to where they... So how is this... Who actually gets to participate in this? Is it even real? All he showed us was an empty field on the side of a mountain and told us he sold 7 lots today. What are they selling, really?
And so I think now, more and more consumers will be looking to make active choices with their dollars.
What kind of language? You're going to make active choice? I think what he's saying here, what we would normally say is voting with your dollar. Spend your money with the people who are doing the right things. Only do business with those who have a high social credit score. Active dollars. Active digital currency or whatever. Nasara Kisara, right?
And really vote with their wallets. And so I would say, there is going to be a return to community, a return to small, a return to local, a return to the high street, a return to...
Yes, but how do we return to those smaller communities? By choice or by force? Did Mama Gaia send us to our rooms, or did global governments lock the world down? What really happened?
Kind of victory gardens and, living local and celebrating artisans and that kind of thing. I definitely see that happening. And at the same time, the journey of these giant corporations is not over. My invitation is, how do we think about this as a kind of include and transcend? Give these companies the ability to be part of creating a planetary commons.
That means to force these companies into our way of thinking. Right? Because just a couple minutes ago, he said those companies who don't do the right thing don't deserve to be in business. That's how it's done.
It's one thing to use nature as a healthy and truly sustainable way of living and feeding ourselves. It's a whole other thing to set out to recreate nature and then call it regenerative.
That's a great point. This is why I wanted to share this video with you, because so many good points, just like that, that's the way it needs to be stated.
Sustainable. We need a full stop to their laboratory life. It's hard. Their remade nature is everywhere. But if you really want to care for this planet and do your part to make things better for the life here, you have to start by taking responsibility for how you're participating in the redesign, their reset, and then work to step away from it. If enough of us did this, I have to think that it would make a difference. We do need another way to go if we're going to ask people to break away from the prescribed path, but we need to watch where the narrative comes from. Their plans and designs are long range, and their tentacles are everywhere.
It's a great point. And of course, as followers of Jesus Christ, Christians in the purest sense of the term, we do have an answer for this. Scripture answers all of the big questions about life. Why are we here? Where do we come from? Where are we going? What should we do while we're here? How do we care for the planet? Right? There's ideologies behind everything. Everyone has one. You're going to serve a master. You can't get around it. Why don't you serve the master, the real one, the one that created it all, and then came into the world, in the flesh, in the man Jesus Christ, and lived among us, and brought us the truth of the gospel, and the truth of how we engage with our culture. First of all, to share that gospel truth with them, and also how to deal with things like this, how to point out where we see the Antichrist at work, the spirit of Antichrist at work. So once again, please check out Please Stop the Ride YouTube channel, the website and blog. The link is in the description. Just scroll down to the links and sources section in the description of this video. I got a little excited there in a couple sections. I was thinking if I keep talking, I might have to take this video down and put it up on the website, but we'll see how it goes here. So Lucian Tarnowski, once again, he is the founding curator and executive director of Sivana, which we just saw there a minute ago on the screen, an open global society committed to working on humanity's greatest challenges. Sivana creates tools and resources for movements, communities, and multi-stakeholder initiatives to maximize their impact on the UN Sustainable Development Goals by year 2030. So what we want to do here, secondarily, of course, to studying God's Word and understanding what God has said to us and sharing the gospel, is to understand How do we discern truth within the culture that we live, within the world that we live? So we have to know what these terms mean, and hopefully today we've got an understanding of what stakeholder is. Shall we revisit it? Specifically, stakeholder capitalism. He says, once again, the best way to understand what it means is to think of what a company once was, how it was once understood, where the CEO and the company managers regarded themselves as answerable to the shareholders, because the shareholders are the actual owners of the company. Now, a stakeholder is anyone that could be affected by the corporation, but of course, it's not going to be the people. It's going to be those who are in control. Effectively, when we hear the term stakeholder and stakeholder capitalism, what that really means is the merging of the public and the private. And that's not good for you. You don't want your government to be private. I'm afraid that's what we have with a lot of our police forces, at least in the United States. Seems like Australia as well. Private police forces. Something has changed. I intend to do a study and a video about that here. Something has changed with our police. A police officer 20 years ago doesn't look like a police officer today. So anyway, Savannah offers, as a public good, a community and collaboration platform purpose-built to achieve Sustainable Development Goal number 17 by increasing flows of knowledge, talent, and capital. So again, this is from... here on the screen here, this book here, Recapturing the Rapture, Rethinking God, Sex, and Death in a World That's Lost Its Mind. Once again, culturally wide-ranging meditation on the loss of meaning in our times and on pathways to rediscovering it. This is another book that was mentioned in our research here. It says this book is about a big idea, and the idea is this: slowly over the past few decades, and now suddenly all at once we're suffering from a collapse in meaning. Fundamentalism, that would mean you, Christian, and nihilism are filling that vacuum with consequences that affect us all. In a world that needs us at our best, diseases of despair, tribalism, and disaster fatigue are leaving us at our worst. It's vital that we regain control of the stories we're telling, because they are shaping the future we're creating. To do that, we have to remember our deepest inspiration, heal our pain and apathy, and connect to each other like never before. In other words, we need to ascend. Global consciousness, a unified planet. This book is divided into 3 parts. The first, Choose Your Own Apocalypse, takes a look at our current meaning crisis. The middle section, The Alchemist's Cookbook, applies the creative firm IDEO's design thinking to the meaning crisis. The final third of the book is The Ethical Cult Building. In Recapture the Rapture, we're taking radical research out of the extremes and applying it to the mainstream, to the broader social problem of healing, believing, and belonging. And that term belonging is one that is being used. Don't you want to be on the right side of history? Don't you want your social credit score to be high? Because if you don't support the Sustainable Development Goals, your social credit score is going to take a hit. You might not be able to get a date out there on one of those dating apps. We saw that recently, how those games are played. Now here's Lucian Tarnowski's blog. He's going to point out some of the superstars of the movement, celebrating a heroine of the future, Nicole Bradford. He's writing about this person. Here, Nicole Bradford is a friend and I deeply respect, and I am inspired by. This Forbes interview is a very clear portal into many of the most exciting transformations I also believe are underway during this golden decade. Capital G&D. Once again, there are many New Age philosophies who think that we're entering a golden age now. He says, I celebrate the heroines of our time, such as Nicole. I have come to the belief that the biggest thing holding back humanity is a crisis of imagination and hope. I agree with him there. There is a crisis of hope, but He's sadly mistaken on the answer. Many no longer believe in the promise of the future. The Edelman Trust Barometer Global Survey reports 80% of us believe the global system is broken, and 2/3 of us believe the future will be worse than the present. Of course, the global system's broken. The question is, who's going to fix it? And those with the power. Who broke it, first of all? The question is, first of all, who broke it? And is man really going to fix it? Society can't handle this. We're in a meta-crisis of meaning. However, just reading Nicole's brilliant interview shows what's coming. Non-incremental transformation at every single level of the system is inevitable. There's a pathway through where humanity rises to our finest hour by unleashing our collective potential on redesigning every aspect of our united planet so that we may all thrive. Now that's the title of his movement too, United Planet. He says, I'm so happy to collaborate with brilliant leaders of these times such as Nicole. So if you'll just jump on this movement, you might get a mention from one of its superstars, Lucian Tarnowski. Many of the insights Nicole shares, such as unleashing potential, flourishing cities, and community design, are central to my deepest passion and interest. Once again, just as we saw on Please Stop the Rides video there, we can't assume that all of these people are just evil at heart. That's not fair, and it's not accurate. A lot of these people really believe they're doing the right thing. That's what deception does to you. When you don't have an absolute truth to stand on, you will fall into any movement that feels right. He says, I've attended Nicole's Trans Tech conference, and it is the closest thing one can get to a collective TARDIS. In my list of people I see in the history of the future, Nicole is towards the very top. I mean, he's gushing about this, right? She must really made an impact on him. And so here's the article. We won't read all this because it goes on for quite a while, but just to let you know a little bit about what it sounds like when they want to promote someone. In other words, her social credit score is going to be rather high. She is on board. All right, now here is, let's see. Now, this is a PDF document from a speech that Lucian gave, and we have here in the second part of it. Let's just read through this. Some standard metrics, alignment. United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Once again, here, very helpful. They have a link to the UN Sustainable Development Goals, the website where this book, that website and this book, same thing. It's available online, this entire book. It's not a secret. Also referred to as the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development is a set of 17 global goals, 169 associated targets, and 230 individual indicators. Do you know what any of them are? You should. You better. It matters. This international collaboration between 193 United Nations member states and global organizations and agencies is outlined in the UN Resolution ARES 71. Established in September 2015. The Sustainable Development Goals are seen as a step towards international collective impact efforts focusing and guiding the interventions of humanitarian efforts around the globe. Of course, we pointed out over and over, Days of Noise did a very good job of this, is pointing out this is not humanitarian. It is ultimately anti-human. We don't have a plan B because there's no planet B. And that would... that sounds right, doesn't it? That sounds like the right idea, like we have to act now. But according to what standard? What standard are you working from is the question. Just action. Remember, we're always talking here about efficiency and effectiveness. Here they're calling for efficiency. Let's act. Let's just do things. What about the effectiveness? What about doing the right things? What are the right things? What is your standard? Whoever's offering this to us, what standard are you operating from? Your standard of truth and morality. Many in the impact space are orienting to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals with the hope that convergence will make everyone better able to have a positive impact by explicitly working towards the same goals. Let's see here. So now we mentioned here that my wife Summer has had a personal experience with the impact strategist, and perhaps she'll be willing to tell you that story sometime. And explain that. It was part of a Matrix Override, part of that got edited out, and maybe saving it for another time. She was approached by an impact strategist when she lived in Asia, who wanted to see if her online business would be a good candidate to align with the agenda for the 21st century, 21, 2030. So, as she states, that this is what you see out there as a boots on the ground recruitment initiative. So as we saw here, this is, maybe this is how Summer could have ended up being one of the sweethearts of the movement, right? Just by jumping on board. Are you selling your soul when you do that? Maybe not. But you ought to be checking out what standard of truth. What standard? What morality are these people working with? So this piece is to share the best practices. In other words, to give you an idea of how do you implement these things. And this is an impact strategist is a title of a duty that's performed by those who go around recruiting people who can make an impact for this movement. That's to be a superstar of the future, you have to be on board. Of course, with such global reach, there are some contextual considerations. While a global vision is important, context and the unique nature of your operations and environment cannot be compromised. It's important to take the granular details of your particular operating atmosphere into consideration when crafting outcome metrics. What is a mouthful? A little bit more to look at here. The Global Value Toolkit is an EU-funded research projects addressing the measurement and management of business impacts on global sustainable development. Their catalog offers more than 200 frameworks and measures. So this is how it's being done. This is how this is being implemented in your hometown. These are the documents that are being disseminated to your city manager, your town planner, the person who decides where homes are built and how to zone this area for business and this for residential. Those people have become some of the most important people in local government. These are the documents they're reading. Your town manager might be reading this document in this section about sustainability. The Global Reporting Initiative is dedicated to sustainability reporting, transforming it from a niche practice to one now adopted by a growing majority of organizations, that would be non-governmental organizations, who do influence local government. GRI sustainability reporting standards are foundational to this success. With thousands of reporters in over 90 countries, and you can count on it, they're in your town. GRI provides the world's most widely used standards on sustainability reporting and disclosure, enabling businesses, governments, civil society, and citizens to make better decisions based on information that matters. In fact, 92% of the world's largest 250 corporations report on their sustainability performance. And now, why do I say that the social justice movement and the Agenda 21 are the same? Because now corporations are reporting on their diversity performance. Why? Because you want a good social credit score. You don't want the mob coming to get you. So what should you do? I mean, what do you do with all this information? Get involved. Know what's going on at the level of your local government. You might be one out there that says, I'm not voting for president, I'm not voting for Congress, I'm not voting for these people. Okay, fair enough. I agree with you. Do whatever you feel. But you better be involved with your local government. You better know what they're doing. Because if freedom and liberty are going to be lost, they're going to be lost from the bottom up. They're going to be lost from the level of your own hometown up. Right? Central government works from the top down. But freedom and liberty are lost from the bottom up when people stop paying attention. When people stop knowing what's going on in their own hometown, in your own backyard. Go to your city council meetings. Maybe, hey, most of them are streamed online nowadays. We have no excuse. Get involved with it. Understand, find out who your mayor is. Do you know who your mayor is? Find out who it is. Do you know who your town manager, your city planner is? Find out who they are. Find out everything you can about them. Go listen to them speak. Go listen to the complaints that people are bringing to the city council meetings. Pay attention to what's going on in your hometown, because if we lose liberty and freedom to this authoritarian movement, and it looks like we just might, it'll be because you and I, we didn't get involved. We didn't get involved at the local level. Say what you want to about the federal elections. Vote for Biden, vote for Trump, whoever. You better be involved at your local level. That's what one of the side messages I've been preaching here for a long time. Please get involved with your local government. All right, my friends, let's jump over here and see. Summer's given us a link to look at here. Tarnowski family. Take a look at that. If you guys have any questions or comments you want to throw in there, you can address them to Summer in the live chat, and we'll talk about them here in the next few minutes. Otherwise, we'll be wrapping it up. Let's see. Here you go. Well, Wikipedia, the Tarnowski, Polish noble and aristocratic family. The Tarnowski family was one of the oldest and most powerful magnate families in Poland. It reached its apex. So as this gentleman is telling us about his plans for the world, let's understand who he is. People want to make claims, oh, Illuminati, you're a conspiracy theorist. Global elites, you're a conspiracy theorist. Really? Really? Are we? What research have you done? It reached its apex, the Tarnowski family, in the 14th and 15th and 16th centuries when members of the Tarnow, Meltzin, and later Jaroslav branches held prominent positions beside the Piast and kings of Poland. From father to son, the Tarnowski family held 10 times the office of voivode of Krakow, voivodeship, and 6 times the office of Castellan of Krakow. The history of the family started with the trusted advisor of the last Piast kings, the progenitor of the Tarnowski family. By 1320, he held the office of voivode, I guess that's what that is, of Krakow. And from 1331, the highest secular office in the Kingdom of Poland. Just pointing out here, folks, that this Tarnowski family, here's their coat of arms, if you're interested in that. You know, we're not dealing with lightweights here. These people are connected. They're right where they planned to be all along. So it makes sense. All right, our poll question today, once again, we asked, if you want to vote in this poll, you can do so. Hurry up. Let's get this thing to 100 before we get out of here. Is climate change a global emergency? The link to this poll is in the live chat, pinned to the top of the live chat. I will once again drop it in there right now. There you go. Link to the poll question is once again in the live chat if you want to go over there and give us another vote. Get us up to 100. So far, the question is this: is climate change a global emergency? So far, 94% of you have said, no, it's not. Only 6% of you have said yes, but I don't agree with Agenda 21. Absolutely nobody has answered and said yes, and we must follow the Sustainable Development Goals. Nobody out of 100 people There we go. Now we've got 100. Nobody out of 100 people, 0 people out of 100 answered this question by saying yes, and we must follow Agenda 21. Nobody. See if we have any more comments in here. Gary Sheridan says it's not only not an emergency, it's not even a good conversation. All right. Some good comments in here today. Thank you for doing that, folks. Thanks for joining our poll question today. That always gives us a nice context for our discussion, gets our viewing audience engaged with us. I want to invite you folks once again to go over to armoroftruth.net and check out the video I did with Days of Noah on Friday night. It's there available for replay. You can just click this image to start the video, or there's a play button up here in the left-hand corner. Once again, we have built an independent platform where we can live stream and post videos. Soon down here, we'll have only videos that are only available on the website down here, and there is no subscription or no fee at the moment. We will have a subscription. We'll have to have a subscription service at some point because, as I said, it cost well over $100 for us to just do this live stream and have people come watch it. They actually charge you by the amount of views you get. If you believe that, that's how it works. That's how video hosting works, I guess, now. So this is how YouTube has spoiled us all. Because the YouTube platform, I can go there and do live streams for free, but I can't say what I want to say. But that's where all the people are. But over here on our website, we've got our own independent platform, our own ability to live stream right here and say what we want to, at least for now, unimpeded, but it's expensive. I don't say that to try to, that's just the truth. It is expensive to do. So this is the way it's going to have to be done in the future if we're going to do this without censorship. You're going to have your own platform. You might say, well, what about Odyssey and Rumble and DLive and BitChute? They censor people. You can't say everything over there. Now, it's not like YouTube for sure, and I have, we have Brad from Carolina channel on Odyssey and on BitChute as well. But I would direct you to the podcast. You can search that out on Apple Podcast. You can search it out on Spotify, Audible. If you like, the resource for audiobooks now, you can search Armor of Truth on demand there and listen to our podcast there as well. And so if you appreciate this, now we also a live chat. When we are live, we'll have a live chat running a couple hours before and a few hours after the live streams. We did that Friday, and it was a lot of fun. It was the folks, we got a lot of good reports and reviews about how much people enjoyed having this live chat. We're trying to create the full experience here so that people who have been spoiled by YouTube can come here to this website and get that full experience. So we need your support to do this. This is something that we can only do together. As we say here all the time, ministry is corporate. Nobody can do it alone. We have to have support. And so if you want to help us out, you can find these donate links. And you can either donate directly to the ministry, or you can, there are also ways that you could donate to me personally, because some people prefer that. All right, so we've made that available. You don't see that very often, but we have both available. All right, so there it is, folks. I wanted to give you, once again, a look at our website over here so you'll know it's there. We're doing it. Your support is helping. And we need your prayers and continued support, so thank you for that. Let's see who's here in the live chat. There we go. On Fire Foley is with us. Good to see you, man. Emma Peel. CJM, good to see you. Thanks for being here. CJM says, a lot of royals have weird Islam Jewish religion. similar to the Templars. And you heard Lucian Tarnowski there earlier talk about his respect for the mystery schools, for sure. Aileen Hogg is here with us. Says it was a pleasure to share this moment with you. Thanks, you all, brothers in faith. And for those of you who won the English Standard Version study Bibles, those will be mailed out this week, so be on the lookout for those. Aileen is one of those. Sister Bahare, is that right? Bahare is with us. Thanks for being here. That's a new name for me. It's good to see you. Damon Zodiac says, we don't live on a globe. All right. I live in an apartment. It's good to see you, Damon Zodiac. I'm curious if that Bible and tracts have made it to you. I think you're in the UK. Let me know. Let me know if that's got there. It takes a while, I guess, because of viruses, the mail slows down for some reason. Dento Bean. It's in the house. Good to see you too. Yeah, there's Summer explaining how she met one of these impact strategists. Interesting story. But what it tells you is they're out there, and they're out there to recruit people who are doing their own businesses, people who are self-employed. And they're trying to pull all the businesses into this sustainability movement. Pretty soon you won't be able to do business unless you're on board with those goals. And, of course, now social justice is part of it. So you have to be on board with diversity goals. Solomon Waffles is here with us. A lot of you folks we've seen over there logged into or joined up and registered for the live chat on the website, which is cool. Solomon Waffles is there. Crystal Goyne, thanks for being here. The KCH 2112. Good to see you. We were talking to you guys over on that live chat. Catch 22. Thanks for being here. Albert, of course, Albert Kiros is here. Deflating Atheism. It's good to see you, brother. All right. There's a Carolina brother. Says, I deleted Facebook as soon as I heard about the Zuckerbucks. Right on. So thanks for jumping by here. Appreciate it. It's good to see you. There is one of our strong apologists out there. Check out that YouTube channel if you want to see atheism destroyed. Not because we don't like people. We want to see people in the truth. All right, folks. It's good to see us. It's good to see you guys out here today. Let's see what we got here. CJM, thank you. CJM has sent in a donation. Let's see if we got anything live that came in today. If you want to use the Streamlabs link when we're live here, whether on the website or here, the Streamlabs link is always there, and you can make a donation. It'll show up live here. But thanks, CJM, for that. Kelly Henson, of course. I see you. There you are. Alchemistry. That's a tough one to say. Thanks for being here. Nana P and Ms. O, of course, out there with the wrenches. They're not afraid to use them. Emilios Man is with us too. Let's look at this, our final count on the poll question today, which was, is climate change a global emergency? 102 votes are in, and, well, as we saw over here on the United Nations, did their global climate poll, and as they said, the people's voice is clear. They want action. Now, of course, we didn't get to poll as many people as they did, but our little cross section here of our YouTube family has spoken as well. The UN's poll says the people's voice is clear and they want action. In other words, yes, climate change is a global emergency, but here, among our group of people today, 103 votes are in now. 93% have said no, climate change is not an emergency. 7% have said yes, it is an emergency, but we need a different solution than Agenda 21 or 2030. And absolutely nobody answered and said, yes, climate change is a global emergency and we need to follow the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Nobody said yes to that. And that's interesting. All right. Good comments today. And finally, the thunderstorm seems to have passed as we're about to go off the air here. It was big time there for a while. Those of you who've been here with us the whole time, you heard the strong thunder. It was just right outside that window there. It was on top of us. A little bit hairy here for a few minutes, wearing these headphones and speaking on this microphone. But we got through it. There, Deflating Atheism says, the act of deflating atheism has taken a back seat for the time being. My main concern these days is what you're talking about right now. Excellent. I think a lot of us have to be on this topic because this is going to affect everyone, and it's starting in your hometown. Your local government is the first place to look. Get involved. Find out what's going on. Thank you for being here with us today, folks. We'll play you out with something. Let's play you out with the Dinner with Andre clip again. That's pretty good. Let's do that. Thank you for joining us today, folks. If you want to support us, links in the description. Go to the armoroftruth.net website. Click the donate tab. There are more ways to donate there. If you'd like to donate directly to the ministry, you can do that. If you want to donate personally, there are ways to do that. Just so you know where it's going. God bless you, my friends. We'll see you again here live on Thursday in the 6 o'clock hour for the Bible study series, Who is Jesus? We're just asking a basic question. We want to know. We want to build a high Christology. Greg Baker, thanks for the donation, brother. I appreciate it very much. All right, here we go, folks. Play you out with Dinner with Andre, and we'll see you again on Thursday, Lord willing.
We are bored. We're all bored now. But has it ever occurred to you, Wally, that the process that creates this boredom that we see in the world now may very well be a self-perpetuating, unconscious form of brainwashing created by a world totalitarian government based on money, and that all of this is much more dangerous than one thinks? And it's not just a question of individual survival, Wally, but that somebody who's bored is asleep, and somebody who's asleep will not say no? See, I keep meeting these people. I mean, just a few days ago, I met this man whom I greatly admire, and he told me that he no longer watches television, he doesn't read newspapers, and he doesn't read magazines. He's completely cut them out of his life because he really does feel that we're living in some kind of Orwellian nightmare now, and that everything that you hear now contributes to turning you into a robot. He said to me, "Where are you from?" And I said, "New York." He said, "New York, yes, that's a very interesting place. Do you know a lot of New Yorkers who keep talking about the fact that they want to leave but never do?" And I said, "Oh, yes." And he said, "Why do you think they don't leave?" He said, "I think that New York is the new model where the camp has been built by the inmates themselves, and the inmates are the guards, and they have this pride in this thing they've built. They've built their own prison, and so they exist in a state of schizophrenia where they are both guards and prisoners, and as a result, they no longer have the capacity to leave the prison they've made or to even see it as a prison." And he said, "Escape before it's too late." See, actually, for 2 or 3 years now, I've had this very unpleasant feeling that we really should get out. Of course, the problem is where to go, because it seems quite obvious that the whole world is going in the same direction. From now on, there'll simply be all these robots walking around, feeling nothing, thinking nothing. And there'll be nobody left almost to remind them that there once was a species called a human being, with feelings and thoughts, and that history and memory are right now being erased, and soon nobody will really remember that life existed on the planet.
Armor of Truth.
In the age of technocracy, scientism, and pop atheism,
Faith is resistance.
Nietzsche, of course, announced the death of God and called for the birth of the Übermensch, the Superman, who would take humanity to new heights and to create a new world order.
Find us Brad from Carolina YouTube channel. And log on armoroftruth.net. Armor of Truth, live. Faith is resistance.